Seriously, let's rehash why I'm having a break. I've got to go back and actually do another email, a long email. I've just finished three this morning. I'm like, oh, my eyes are killing me having a break. But let's rehash. So since 2015, when I've said I'm getting stalked and harassed, this started from some spread of bullshit across social media that I'm sitting back going, I don't give a shit. It's only social media. Since when did people take it so seriously off social media? It's like, yeah, I think I would rather rely on a reliable source. Social media is not a reliable source. Yeah. And it's open to one's own interpretation of a subject. Or, here's the thing. If you're reading a book, in a book, you'll see that there is the, what do you call it? Say the author's interpretation. And have you ever noticed with a book club that people would sit around and they all have a different interpretation of the one book? So it's the exact same book. Okay, so they've all read the exact same book, but they'll go around in circle and you'll see people say, oh no, I didn't interpret it that way. I interpret the character to be this. Have you ever noticed that? So that is where I've turned around to people in the last 10 years even and said, but that's your interpretation. It is your interpretation. It's not the author's interpretation. So the author who's writing this is the best judge to say what that's meant to be interpreted as, not your interpretation. And that is the best way to view something, because, if you've got to really think about this. People in a book club, they read a book, they sit around, they talk about it, and they all come back with different scenarios or different versions of what they've read. Everybody has taken something differently from the exact same piece of information, the same text. So that one book, a group of 10 people, for example, have all interpreted that one book completely different. Okay? So that's the same thing with social media, which is why I turn around and say, yeah, but social media is not a reliable source. You can interpret a photo, information, a post. You can interpret it any way you want. And there's not just the same as you're in a book club now where you're 10 people, you're 10,000s of people interpreting that information. Do you understand? Because it is solely on that person's interpretation, which could mean that person's own projection of what's going on in their own life, how they're going to project what they've seen or feel or read. It's a projection of that oneself. It's the same, you read a book. How many people have interpreted a book completely different to the person next to them? And it's no wrong or right answer, because the right answer comes from the author themselves. This is just your interpretation. So your interpretation, another person's interpretation, another person's interpretation. These are interpretations. These aren't facts. They're interpretations. And anyway, so that's where I've led to when all this bullshit was going on since 2015. I said to police, you want to put a stop to it? Because I'm getting harassed now. Not only was it defamation of character, but now I'm getting harassed, where I was literally harassed several times in my area of residence. Then the STEPHANIE TSALLAS. This STEPHANIE TSALLAS, who was my known stalker, get this. In the past, she was labelled as somebody with delusional fantasies about me as my stalker. And it doesn't matter how many times I've told this person over the years, yeah, that's not true. She's like, no. She does this big fucking ridiculous thing, go, no, I'm telling you. I'm like, but you don't even know me. What happened late 2004, I'm getting a coffee at the Californian Cafe on Oxford Street. And when I was getting a coffee, this person came in, was talking, this other person who I don't know, I was just getting a coffee talking to, this Michael guy. And he introduced me to this person and said, this is Stephanie. Anyway, so we end up all sitting down together and having a coffee and having a chat. From that, by this weirdo, and even my partner, John Cabino, was saying, she's infatuated with you. She has been stalking us. Like she did. She turned up at my partner, John's restaurant in Mossman. He was furious. She turned up at my, and John was like, you got to put a stop to it. I'm laughing about it going, she's a crazy fag hag. Like I'm just laughing it off. And John's like, no. This isn't something to be like, basically stop laughing about it, Justin, because I used to be a character of a person that always let everything go. Here's the thing, pin that for a minute. My entire life, I'm someone that has never held on to anything and let it all go, and moved on. Now, my cousins on my dad's side who have had way too much to say over the years don't know me because they never knew me from the past. So I only connected with Auntie Sharon's children and Auntie Linda's children at my nan Ruby Fleming's funeral in October 2007. The only time I've seen them before that was Aunt Sandra's funeral in 2001. We never kept in touch. We didn't even speak because they don't know me. So these cousins don't know me. Then I didn't, so I thought I would keep in touch briefly after Nan died in October 2007, but I didn't socialise with them until after December 2008. So I had then started dating Gio. And these group of cousins of mine have opened their mouth up and said way too much. Like they've said, oh, let this go, move on and whatever. And I'm like, you obviously don't know me. They don't know me. They have no idea what I was like in my 20s or in the past. They have no idea who I was as a teenager. So my own first cousins, my own family members, look, some of those first cousins I never saw until into 2001. So I had no idea about them until 2001. So some of those first cousins, I'm a, 21, 22-year-old. I had never met them before in my life. And I'm already 22. Anyway, this is my dad's side. So, I'm looking at them. So they've never known me as a teenager. They never knew me as a teenager. Never knew me in my 20s. They've only known me after December 2008. Mind you, all these organisations gathered information from them in the last 9 years, and I'm sitting back going, but they don't know me. They never knew me before December. Like, we didn't keep in touch before December 2008. Get information from me, thanks. Oh, but it's your family. Yeah, it's a family member who never knew me as a teenager. They never knew me. Like, I hadn't seen them since I was 4 years of age. They never knew me in my 20s. We never grew up together. But you're going to take that as facts? These people I only connected with at my nan's funeral in 2007, they don't fucking know me. And they're the biggest troublemaking fuckwits you'd ever meet in your entire life. So anyway, back to this crap. So this is where this whole Stephanie comes into it as well. So again, always let things go and move on. Yeah, I can unpin that now and go back to what I was saying, where John was like, so John Cabino, my partner at the time, was like, oh God, you just like, don't let this go. Like he used to get so frustrated with me because I was too easygoing. I was so easygoing. It's like, oh, forget about it. Don't care. It doesn't bother me. As long as it doesn't cost me damages, I don't care. John was like, no, you can't see her for what she is, but I can. She's bad news. Stay away from her. She's got delusional fantasies about you, Justin. And I'm laughing about it. Anyway, I wasn't laughing so much about it in 2006 when he was right and she was told to fuck off and never show her face again. So that's true. So she was told to fuck off and never show her face again. Otherwise, John and myself would call the police on her and have her charged for stalking and harassment. Oh, please don't do anything. She's gone away with this again. She started up again since 2015 and got away with it in 2 countries. I'm sitting back going, so now they're playing the mental health thing going, she was a friend and you're turning on your friends. I'm like, she was never a friend. Here's the timeline. Here's the time. I'll tell you who's a friend, and anybody who's a friend of mine would never walk up and say they're a friend of mine. They know me better than to actually start interfering in my life. So anyone who's actually a friend of mine they would know me better than to turn up and say, oh, I'm a friend of Justin's. No, they'll be on the phone to me and saying, what the fuck is this shit? Some fucking organisation's trying to find out who you're friends with. Like, any good close friend of mine wouldn't get involved. They would be calling me straight away. Anyone who's not a friend is the ones that turn up and go, oh, I know him. No, they don't. No, they fucking don't. If they knew me, they would know better than to open their mouth. But yeah, I even had it in America where they're like, oh, so a friend of yours, oh, you're turning on your friends. It's like, I'm not. I'll be the judge to tell you who knows me and who doesn't, thanks, and where the timeline is. And as far as I'm concerned, no one's got any right to pry into my life. You think you're entitled to break confidentiality and privacy and prying laws? No, you're not. No, you are fucking not. I talk for myself, thanks. Nobody else. Not a family member, not an acquaintance, and I've lived my life with keeping Like my grandfather said, never have more friends than fingers you can count on one hand. So I never did at one time. One time you had Rodney Sard, that was a close friend of mine, but still, you don't tell your friends all your business and your life stories because those friends have other friends and those other friends may not like you. It's a simple fact. You're not going to have someone know everything about you. You know everything about you. So if anyone needs information about you, they get it from you. If I need information about somebody, I get it from that person. I definitely do not get it from social media. I don't look at social media. I never, ever look at one social media account because I'm like, well, I don't need to even misinterpret it to my own projection. No, I can sit with that person himself and have a coffee and ask them information about themselves. I don't need the social media. I don't need to see their photos of their holiday here with all their friends and family. I don't need to see that. But that's not my life with this person. That's some social media life. I don't need that. I'm interested in the person themselves, not their social media person. And I've never been any different. So when I get a lot, when people say, but on social media it said, I'm like, on social media it said, on social media it says there's thousands of people go to this school of hard knocks. That doesn't exist. I know what school of hard knocks means. I'm not an idiot. On social media, on fucking social media, I've had a gut full of it. And I turn around to him saying, you want to watch the true story about how Facebook was invented because it was used by that Mark guy, Zuckerberg, to actually harass people in his university. He invented it to stalk, spy, and harass people that he had a problem with in his own university. That's where it started. That's where we got the idea from. Harassing people, bullying people online. That's where your social media come from. It started as a bad place and you think it's a reliable source. It is not a reliable source, believe me. You want a reliable source? I'll ring up a person, which I'm going to ring up, and I'll teach him mine now because I said I was going to do it yesterday. I'll do it now. And I'm going to catch up with him at some stage for a coffee. See how they're going. Get it from the horse's mouth themselves, not some social media page. And that's it. That's how the real world works. I know that's, oh my God, shock, horror for the terrible, what will they do without social media? Millennials or the Y generation, seriously, why fucking bother? Those people, or the Gen Zs. Yeah, but there's a real world out there, and the real world isn't this bullshit social media. You connect with people, your phones are down, and you have a conversation out in public at a cafe. That's how the real world works. And I'll tell you why I'm always a coffee person, because that's where you sit and you relax. These people that go to pubs, I don't get. Because let me see, I've watched my mum, her sisters and their partners, and they go to a pub. The first thing they do is they rush and they get a drink. Then they'll get another one. Then they get drunk. Then they fight. Then it's like, where was the social life? What bit of this was social? It's rowdy. There's no conversation. It's drinking, it's yelling, and it's screaming. But you didn't have a conversation. You know nothing about what's going on in that other person's life. Nothing. You've come away from spending 3 hours at a pub and you know not a thing about that person that you were there with. Nothing. But if you go to a cafe, this is why I do like Islam nature, is why if you go to a coffee shop, it's relaxed. You sit down in a public space, you're having a coffee, you're relaxed, you're talking to the person, you're engaged in a conversation, you're not a drunken buffoon. There's a massive, huge difference. Like, okay, and look, there is no, I've not ever hid the fact in my entire life, growing up, even as a little kid, that I hate alcohol. And I have. Like, anyone who knows me knows that I'm probably the most anti-alcohol person you could ever meet. If I could go to prohibition and ban alcohol, I would be that person that goes, yeah, well, why do we need it in the world? I've always been anti-drugs and anti-alcohol. And my own twin sister would stand up and go, yeah, like, Justin's always been anti. Oh, would she? Would she now? Because she's so brainwashed by Carol that if you say a joke to Amanda, she takes it seriously. So would she? I wonder. But yeah, because I used to say jokes all the time, because being someone that's very anti-drugs and alcohol, if someone asks me a stupid question, I give them a stupid answer. It's something that's so unrelated to me. For an example, I'm going to leave it there so it's under 15 minutes. Someone goes to me once, oh, I bet you're a real rebel growing up. I'm like, oh yeah, I sold cannabis and brought scotch with me at school. You see? Like, if someone said to me, like, because they just said a stupid question, I was never a rebel. I was the most regimed sort of person, like kept in his sort of anxious state all the time, like, one of Hitler's soldiers type thing, always in an anxious state, nothing out of place. My bedroom was immaculate. I made sure I furniture polished my bedroom, every Friday. My bed was stripped. Washing was done on a Friday before I left to go to school. My bedroom was neat and tidy, and it was the most strict, anxious environment. Even I remember my aunties came over once, and my auntie did say, she probably doesn't remember this, but she said it's not normal to have a bedroom that tidy as a child. It was so neat, so tidy, so nothing out of line. It was like she said, it's not normal for children's bedrooms to be so tidy. But that was just how anal retardative stressed out all the time to ever put a foot wrong. That's how we grew up. That's one thing I give. Okay, she might be a drunk, my mum's sister, but she told the truth there, because even when we used to ride horses in competition, it was like, they've won every class. What do you want them to do? It was such a stressful. So when people have said, "Oh, I bet you're a rebel," it's like, well, that's the most insane thing I've ever heard. Because if you knew my upbringing, you would know, no, Justin definitely wasn't a rebel. He was too scared to do anything wrong. So he never did anything wrong. Too scared to even, So no, I remember the only thing I did, like, when I told people my last name's Fleming, not my mum's second husband's name, Rackley, oh my God, I went for hell because of that. Because I told the truth that my last name's Fleming. We're not related to her second husband. Yeah, I did. In 1992, I went for hell. Ask Robin Charles, my mum's sister, because I went and stayed with her for a few weeks after that happened. The truth is, I did. In 1992, I walked to her place, got kicked out, because I told people the truth that my last name's not Rackley, it's Fleming. And that's how that happened. That's exactly how it happened. So I got kicked out. I live with, and that's the thing, like this, where the last 9 years really pissed me off, because I was close to Robin growing up. And the arguments and crap that's gone on over the years pisses me off. I was. That's back, but we're going back over 30 years ago. Things change. But Robin, like, this is going back, so in 1992, so I went and stayed with her for 2 weeks. And the only thing I did was I told people the truth. My last name's Fleming, not Rackley, and that caused this massive, huge argument. I'm like, shit, you can't do a thing. So no, I wasn't a rebel. Didn't put a foot out of line. Was too scared to do anything. So there was none of this rebel bullshit that people thought. I was like, no, I wasn't a rebel. Tried to not, just kept thinking to myself, the area that my mother moved to when she moved from Sydney was like, you're only here till you're 16. You've just got to go to school here. Because it was always like, there was always a threat. Because I was always back home in Sydney, and my mum was always like, you're coming back here to go to school. I'll call the police, basically. If you don't turn up for class, the police will arrest you and take you to class. I even spoke to the counsellor, Mrs. Rowe, about it. And it was always said that, look, that's it. Like, I couldn't believe that my mum was given custody. And I'm a child thinking, how could you give her custody? So that's what it was like. And I often said to these people after my mother moved, it just felt like going to boarding school, because I was only there to go to school. I was back home in Sydney all the time. I just didn't want to connect. And why not? Anyway, that's just gone off the subject here anyway. But basically, yeah, so no. If you ask a stupid question to me, I'm just going to be a smart ass back. It's the same when idiots, this is the other thing, and I've never been any different. It's the same when idiots kept asking the same question about why I was moving to America. Now, I got asked the question, so why are you packing up and moving to America? And my comment back was, well, I do have a green card to the US. I've been working towards this since 2001 when I was first traveling around the US in January and February 2001. And I knew that it's where I've always wanted to be. I was like this since a teenager. My God, I used to go for the Yankees. Back then, I used to wear a Yankees cap as a teenager. You can see this in the photo with me. Always, my dad played baseball. I've always had a connection with the US and the US culture. It's where I want to be. Basically, I, got into the casino industry doing hosting so I could find jobs in the US. I've got in, that's also my passion. Art and design and so forth. So when I finished the last course I did in 2010, in 2011 I applied for a green card to the US. I went for the process and I've had a green card since 2014. So that's why I'm packing up to move to America. So you see, I already answered that question truthfully once. Then this same dickhead Mark Henner asked me again. I'm like, but I've already answered your question. I already answered. I'm not going to repeat myself, so now I'm being a smart ass since. I'm like, oh, I'm moving to America because they can deal with PTSD. Of course that's not true. That's a fucking bullshit lie. I already gave the truth the first time. I gave the truth the first time. So the question was answered. Any topic after I've already answered the question is mute. I'm not going to repeat myself. I'm going to be a smart ass. You have the correct information the first time. Go with it. Anything after that is me being a smart ass to your stupid questioning. So then he asked again. I said, oh, because I'm going to Disneyland. Like I was being a smart ass. Then he asked again. I said, oh, I'm going to join the military. Then there was some bullshit. It was like, oh, I'm going to America because I've got no friends in Australia and all my friends are in America. Like being a smart ass like this. None of that's true. There was like, oh, because I'm going to adopt children with my best friend Daniel. I have no idea who this Daniel guy is. So none of that was true. And, you know, rescue children, all this bullshit. I was being a smartass. Like just trying to think of some other bullshit stuff to say to this wanker who kept repeating the same question. And I kept being a smartass back with ridiculous answers. Because he was asking ridiculous questions. And the thing is, I'd already answered that question. I answered you once. You've got the answer. I don't need to repeat myself. And I did the same thing in America. So it was always the same questioning. It was, what brought you to America? And I answered that question once. So that question's over and dealt with, move on. I've answered you. That's it. That question kept getting asked. Oh, so what brought you to America? So I gave a stupid answer back every time because you're asking me a stupid question. So I'm going to give you a stupid response. I'm like, 2 planes and a car. What brought you here? Yeah, I did. I'm like, but you got given the information already from me. You're going to keep asking stupid questions, so you're going to get me answering back stupid answers. I'm not going to be truthful when you're going to keep asking stupid questions. I'm going to answer you back a ridiculous answer. And that's what I did to Mark Henner. That's what I did from 2016 to 2018. That's what I did in America. It's like I answered you once. You've got the information. Now, that's it. Any stupid questioning after that, you're going to get a ridiculous response from me because that's how I am. You want to ask a stupid question, I'm going to be mentally retarded with a stupid fucking answer back to you. And that's it. So don't ask stupid questions and you won't get stupid answers. And the other thing is, if you want me to be transparent with you, you be transparent with me. That's how life works. Otherwise, I'll clam up and you won't get any information that you want.